Coming up on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, Michael and I will get you all of your latest news and information from the state capitol and CDE with an in-depth analysis on how it impacts you. We'll tell you about a hearing that is going on right now on TK through fifth grade reading. We'll talk with John Gray about the upcoming May budget revision. Plus, we play the game of Where is Edgar?
Where in the world is Edgar's?
Where in the world? Yes.
It's a great segment, and it returns this week because you're stuck with me and not Edgar. Edgar's on a flight somewhere. We'll tell you where. Coming up on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. That starts right now.
And it's just after 1 o'clock. We welcome you on a Wednesday to the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, along with Michael Kelly, who's sitting in today for Dr. Edgar Zazwata. I'm Naj Alikhan, ACSA Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Welcome. We are honored to have you with us today. Go ahead and jump onto the chat and say hello and let us know where you're watching from. We've got a packed show for you today, Michael. We're going to talk about a hearing that's happening right now inside the state capitol. The legendary John Gray is going to be with us as well. And then Edgar is currently on assignment, yep. Right? Currently on assignment. Wheels up right now, as my understanding. Well, we're going to tell you where he is, and he's got a full report.
He told me this morning when we talked, and again, you'll hear from him at the end of the show. He told me if the plane's got Wi-Fi, he's going to be watching us. So, Edgar, depending on where you are, hello.
Yes.
Here in Sacramento.
Yes, there is nothing quite like Southwest Airlines Wi-Fi. We have joked many times about seeing if we can do the show with him on a Southwest flight and me here. We're not going to test that today.
Nope.
We are going to get a full report. There are a couple of people that I want to acknowledge over on our chat today. Sheldon Smith chiming in today from San Luis Obispo. I just want to make note. Every time John Gray comes on to talk about budget is when Sheldon Smith is with us. Sheldon is retired, but finds his way onto the show anytime John is on here. And then I just saw this one pop up, Michael, and this is going to take us back to some of our early days of the Legislative Lunch Break.
Sure.
I see Susan Denton right there. Talking about newly retired superintendent in Bakersfield.
Well
Susan, we will never forget the bet you and I had between San Diego State and Arizona several years ago. So welcome. Congratulations on your retirement.
And of course, let me just say one thing, Naj.
Yeah.
It's not a proper ACSA Legislative Lunch Break if this guy, Neri Pais, is not first on the chat.
I know it. No, you're exactly
Something
right.
is seriously wrong if Neri's not first on the chat. So Neri, my friend, good to see you as always.
Yes, welcome. Welcome, Neri, and welcome to all of you. Let me get you some news headlines, and then we'll get right to John Gray because we are going to talk about the state budget. I want to tell you about a hearing that is going on today over at the state capitol on a bill with Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas and several others in the Assembly. This proposed legislation could advance reading proficiency in California, and if passed, Assembly Bill 1454 would provide educators and school leaders with training, materials, and support to strengthen early childhood literacy efforts. Now, the bill reflects an agreement, I think this is important, by several education advocates to provide state support for instructional materials and training aligned with evidence-based reading and language development. Now, Edgar was quoted in the news release that came out of the Speaker's office this morning. I'll just go ahead and read that to you real quick. Edgar, quote, "We believe students thrive when educators are equipped with the right tools to drive positive outcomes. AB 1454 provides evidence-based professional development for both certificated and classified educators while empowering LEAs to reach all elementary grades and secondary schools, thereby supporting all of our students in achieving literacy development." What is key to that, the quote there, Michael, right now, if Assembly Bill 1454 passes, that money targeted for TK through fifth grade. However, if there is money left over with the districts, they can expand that to the secondary schools, which is why we put that in there in that quote, because there is the opportunity to expand that. So again, that hearing happening at the state capitol right now. Also want to tell you, especially for our educators in Los Angeles County, in fact, specifically for our educators in Los Angeles County, ACSA regions 14, 15, 16, there's scholarship money out there for high school seniors through CalKids, the state's automatic scholarship program. In Los Angeles, there's more than $250 million available to high school seniors right now. They can claim it through this scholarship program. So want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. All they need is their student number and account with CalKids. So again, $250 million in scholarship money. That is a lot of money. So so make sure to connect on that. All right. Budget.
Yep.
It's like right around the corner. May revision is just days away. We wanted to bring our expert here to talk about what that May revision may look like. John Gray is the president and CEO of School Services of California. He has been on our show. God, I have to think, John, and welcome. I have to think that you might be coming up on the in the Five Timers Club over here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We're going to have to go back and see, because you get something special. You get like ACSA business cards when you hit number 5. So I think we're right there.
Yeah, I do too. I'm looking forward to those business cards.
I feel like it's a race between you and Patty Herrera to see who can have more.
Don't tell her that, because she will beat me every time. She's very competitive.
Yes, she is very competitive. Yes, we have noticed that. John, let me just go right to that tax revenue situation. It's been in flux for the last few years because the tax deadline has been fluid as far as how that impacts the state revenue. So when the May revision has been released, it's been a little bit of a skeleton as far as the May revision is concerned. Are you expecting to see something similar this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. For as long as I've been doing this, we haven't been extending the tax deadlines until just a couple of years ago. And what that means is in May, when everything should be close to being final, meaning we know what the COLA is, we pretty much know what state revenues are for that year. Instead, we punt it out into 6 or 7 months, and we don't get the final numbers until November or December. And so we're going to see that again this year. It's interesting. And I know you guys follow the Department of Finance and the State Controller's Office as far as monitoring tax receipts. So if you look at how we are through March this year for the 24-25 budget year, we're about $4 billion higher than projected at the end of March. And because of the way Prop 98 works, the fact that it was suspended, all that extra money, almost all of it goes to K-12, again, because of the maintenance factor. So through March, we're about $4 billion up. Now, we can also watch the daily collections through the controller's office. And so April, as you know, is a big month. And it's amazing when you look at the chart on when they get their money in April. It's almost flat until the 15th, and it takes a big jump, and we get the lion's share of the revenues at the end of the month. But April, independent of where we were, is tracking right around where the governor budgeted it way back when for the month of April, our biggest month. And what's significant about that is we're hitting that $17 billion figure with the recognition that LA County, pretty much for personal income tax and corporate tax, they got an extension to file their taxes much later in the fall. And if you estimate how much of our tax collections are from LA County, it's about 20%. And so at this point, I don't know how many delayed, but if a huge share of it delayed like they did last time, we could be looking at significantly more money when they finally come in like November. And so if it keeps going as we think it might, if 20% of $17 billion is a little over $3 billion. And again, we're not going to know that until November. So revenues are looking very good. One of the reasons, as we all know in California, The S&P 500 has a lot to do with how our wealthiest Californians behave and when they tax themselves. And if you look at the S&P 500 in December, it was at an all-time high over 6,500. Since that time, we've taken a gigantic dip and started to recover a bit. So I would say for 24-25 revenues, it looks really good, and there might actually be more money. But going out to the following years, it's a little more iffy. Again, the stock market's down significantly. It could rebound, but we don't know that yet. So 24-25, good revenue story because of the way Prop 98 works, good story for that. But going out in the future with all the economic uncertainties we have, including tariffs and unemployment, all the things that go with that, it's a bit murky. So this year, good news story. We're $4 billion up. We could get more if LA didn't file. But in the out years, we see a softening. And a lot of it's going to depend what the Department of Finance forecasts for next year. And we're going to know that in about 2 weeks.
John, just a quick follow-up. So the extension for LA County, was that the result of the fires?
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have gone and said that. Yes. And that was not known as of the time it was budgeted. It happened shortly afterwards. And so about 20% of personal income tax and corporate tax comes from that county. And we already hit our mark in April. The question will be how many of them are going to wait till fall to file. And if they do, that would be extra money.
John, let's look at the federal government and the things that we've seen over the last couple of months. There have been threats to pull money away from the states, and then by extension, you have state programs that are relying on that federal funding. We know that it's creating anxiety, John, about what this May budget revision might look like. How much anxiety, though?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of anxiety, and Edgar
Sure.
can probably report on that better than I can because he's back there or coming back from there right now. Mm-hmm. I think of it in two ways. One is what are the impact to funding for our California school districts, like Title I, special ed, money they get from the federal government. And two, what's the overall impact to the state budget? And so if you look at the revenue pie for school districts, and it's different by each district, but about 10% of our revenues are from federal that go into the general fund, primarily special ed and the title programs. And a lot of those dollars, like the title programs, I kind of think of it similar to our supplemental and concentration grant dollars, right? Targeted in the same way, the use is very similar. And so most of that is actually budgeted out at the school site. For now, for those dollars that districts get for the title fund, special ed, we're just recommending, there's some anxiety out there, but budget proceeding as of status quo. And if there's a change, we're going to have to react. Otherwise, those programs employ a lot of people. And if we were just going to say, we're not going to plan for it next year because we're super cautious, how many people do we need to lay off? Are we going to lose some very good people? So we urge a little caution there on that side. On the other side, and I know you guys have been watching this, Medi-Cal in the state of California, about 75% of it is funded by the federal government. So we got two things going there. One, the Medi-Cal budget in the state budget is significantly over budgeted. They added a new category of undocumented citizens and the age cap. Bottom line, they increased services to a bigger population. And when they budgeted for it, they assumed it would be about $4 billion. It's turning out to be about $10 billion. And so they have a $6 billion hole on the other side of the budget, the non-Prop 98 side of the budget. You may have seen a couple of revisions to backfill those dollars. So in my experience, if you have a hole in your budget and it's all ongoing money, you're going to have a hole in your budget next year. So $6 billion to fix this year, how much is it going to be next year? And that's even if the federal government gives us all the money, right? So that's just an additional thing that we need to think about. So if, for instance, the federal government pulls back significantly, we're going to have to, I mean, you have to find the money from someplace, right, or you have to dramatically change the program, and it would benefit a lot less people than it's benefiting now. So I think of it two ways. The impact on school districts, I think almost the bigger impact is that Medi-Cal, what it does to the other side of the budget, and what does that mean for Prop 98? If you know, if there's not enough money on the other side of the budget, are we risking suspension again because of the financial conditions on the other side of the budget? So two ways: how much the districts get directly, and the impact on the state budget. And between the two, that the one on the state budget, I think, is scaring most people that work in the Capitol right now.
And folks, if you have any questions for John, go ahead and put those into the comment section. We'll try and tackle some of those a little bit later on. John, I want to go to some of the January proposal numbers and find out where you think we stand on some of those. Prop 98 was set at $118.9 billion, with $137 billion set aside for TK through 12. That number may be incorrect. How are the numbers?
I think you need to flip them, but the words are right.
Thank you. See what happens when a
Edgar must have written that question.
He absolutely did.
Wrote it from DC.
Yeah, don't think for a second that wasn't an Edgar mistake. So how are those Prop 98 numbers holding up as we get closer to the May revision?
Yeah, another good question, and it kind of goes to my response on the taxes. So for 24-25, we think Prop 98 could be up $4.5 billion again because of the suspension. Any new unexpected revenues, we get the lion's share of them. And so I expect for the current year, Prop 98 to be higher than the January numbers. The big question mark is 05-06. If you listen to the UCLA forecast, if you look at the S&P 500, where it is now, if it doesn't rebound, I think most of the risk is in next year's. So maybe flat at that point. I don't expect a lot of good news financially for next year's budget and the impact on Prop 98. So a lot of it will be determined on how he handles this extra money in 24-25. My guess is he's going to count most of it as one-time money. So that could provide some sort of, extra dollars for school districts. But again, he's already shown he's risk averse as far as over appropriating Prop 98. Mm-hmm. We had the gimmick last year, and this year he's holding it back about 1.6. So it'll be an interesting read in 2 weeks to see how he handles that. So this year I expect it to go up, next year flat or maybe even down.
I would just like to point out, we have a special viewer watching the show today, and that would be Edgar. I got my Wi-Fi on the plane.
They tricked me into doing that, Edgar. Sorry.
Although I thought I was tuning in to hear Patty, my bad.
See?
Touche, Edgar. Touche.
John, let's talk about the COLA, the budget proposal back in January. COLA was about 2.43%, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
From what you're hearing, does that number move up or down in this budget revision that's coming out in the next couple of weeks?
This is the only thing I'm going to say that you can take to the bank.
Here we go.
Hold on, I'm writing this down.
Speculation, right?
Hold on, John. I'm writing this down. Go for it.
No, the COLA is 2.3%. So
down a little bit.
Yeah. So 2.3%. We got the last data point this morning, and so a lot of offices or companies or school districts, you'll have internal betting pools like on the NC2A basketball tournament. Well, at school services, we have a bet on what we think the COLA is going to be. And so this year's winner is an ACSA alumni that you guys trained very well, and that's Megan Bear. She guessed the closest to what it would be, and it's going to be 2.3.
What did she guess?
She I don't know, just amazing. And most of us were thinking it would be lower. I was thinking it'd be like 2.2 or 2.15 because that's the way it was trending. But you really got to go in and look at what are the individual components that make up that data point. And so while GDP looks like it's slowing, it came out a little bit lower. It appears that in response to the threat of tariffs. A lot of companies started stocking up on their inventories, recognizing that they could be more expensive. And so it's kind of a weird nuance. As part of getting ready for May, we hire an economist to look at the out-year COLAs. So yes, the COLA is 2.3. The big question will be when districts do that MYP, what are those out-year COLAs? And right now they're sitting above 3, around 3.5%. And so, when you make small percentage changes to big numbers, they're big numbers. And so that's what we're sort of waiting for. I would have predicted those out-year COLAs would be less than what districts currently have in their budget, even with that little, it wasn't really an upswing, but not being 2.2, but being 2.3. So 2.3 is the statutory COLA. It's final.
And just for reference point, COLA last year was what?
Sorry. 1.07? Was it?
Okay.
Oh, see,
we'll go with that.
Trick me, Michael. I can look this up. I think it was 1.07.
Okay. All right.
John, quick on the draw here.
Seriously, John, let me just go back to a federal question.
You're not taping this, right?
No.
It's not live.
No. It's just the three of us talking. John, don't worry, nobody else is here.
And Sheldon.
Scott Carroll asked this question. Any advice on how to respond to notification from the feds about canceling federal grants?
I would not listen to my recommendation. I'm not the best person to answer that question.
Okay. All right.
I know what I'd like to say, but I don't know.
That's
again, it's just the three of us talking, John. So may as well just say what you want to say.
Ignore the hundreds of people that are actually watching this show.
All right. So no response on that, and that's certainly fine. Let's talk about this nationwide educator shortage that it feels like we've been talking about for a very long time now. Mm-hmm. In the January budget proposal, there was $800 million set aside for literacy and math coaches and then teacher recruitment as well. What feedback have you been getting related to those expenditures? And the bigger question, John, does it make its way into the final budget?
Oh, okay. That's an easy question. No. So as you guys are likely aware, it's mixed reviews on if that's the best use of $800 million. That is a lot of money. I think if you ask most school districts, they'd say, give it to us discretionary. And I know that's the administration's proposal and what they would like to see. I think they're getting mixed reviews over at the legislature. I think various legislators might have different priorities. So could you see it go to something else like ethnic studies, something like that? So in the end, if I were to predict, it is one-time money. I don't think it will be 800 million. I think it might survive, but might be much smaller. And the reason it'd be much smaller, either a budget constraint because the governor, hopefully doesn't have to suspend Prop 98, or if it gets allocated to other priorities. But I think if you did a survey of your members, I think they could, think of some other good things that they would probably like to use that for. So a priority of the administration, not necessarily with all the legislators.
Ryan Beardsley asked this question. That there's a couple in here, John. First one, is there any indication that the governor may move away from categorical type funding? And then the second question, if we look at the funds allocated to special programs through ELOP and community schools, so those two connected, what can you tell us?
Yeah, and so as we all know, Governor Brown killed categorical funds to a great cheer from most all of us. And we've seen systematically it getting put back into the budget. During tough times, that's typically when the strings are loosened from categorical funds. I don't know if that happens, probably not this budget. Specifically to ELOP, that's one of the governor's babies. And depending on who you talk to, some people think it's great and others think they get way too much money for what they're actually able to serve, right? Having interest from, parents and the students. And so, so I don't know that I see him moving away from categoricals. I doubt that ELOP gets unrestricted, although I know that would be a very popular result in the state budget. Because again, depending on your district, it's a sort of a one size fits all. In some districts, it's wildly successful. Others, you're giving us a lot of money to something where there isn't a lot of interest and we can't really execute. So we have a lot of money left over. So I don't see ELOP going unrestricted, to answer his question.
One final question for you, John. And I know it's Naj's favorite question because he just likes to hold you accountable no matter what the prediction is. It feels like a no-win situation for you. That said, I'm going to ask the question anyway. What are the final predictions from the mouth of John Gray?
Okay, the COLA will be...
COLA. I got that written.
Let's start with
the 2.3.
Yes.
And I think it's safe for districts to budget. We're going to come out with our May revised conference, and I would be surprised if they don't fund the COLA. I think you can count on that. I think other things that might be in play, and it's just speculation, the extra dollars for TK to go down to 10-1 from 12-1. I'm thinking that there's more than enough money there, and the law says you're going to go to 10-1. So I think there's going to be some funding for it. I don't know if it's going to be the amount in January. I think most people estimate that would pay for it and more. So you might see a little haircut on that. In the example of the $800 million for coaches, things like that, I think you could see various programs shaved down. I think all the extra money that we're going to see in Prop 98 based on the state budget, I think he's going to count that as one time. And that's kind of significant. In the past, he's kind of estimated some of it will be ongoing. And we all know what that ended up being with the risk we took in that budget when overestimating revenues. So, but a lot of it's going to be, what are the revenue projections for next year? So I think good numbers for 24-25, generating one-time dollars. I think you'll see some one-time dollars. I would advise him to put it all in the discretionary block grant. Probably not going to happen. But I could see a haircut on the TK staffing down to 10-1. I think it survives, but maybe not at that big number. And then various other programs might be changing a little, like we discussed. But again, the big question will be, what are the projections for next year, and what's the risk? And so we'll probably spend a lot of time of our conference talking about, is this real, or is this a good revenue projection that we can take to the bank?
John Gray is the president and CEO of School Services of California. He is a legend with the budget. John, thank you so much for being with us today. Honor to have you, and we'll check in with you as we get closer to the actual budget deadline.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here. I'll come anytime you invite me, and it goes much better when Edgar's not on. So maybe we can get him on another flight.
He's watching, John. He's watching.
Yeah, but he's got Southwest internet, so I'm sure it's spotty.
It's probably spotty. John, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, I before we play our Where is Edgar game, I do have to just make note real quick. Let me go back through the comments here. I know it's totally it's totally self-serving and everything. Sure. We have a viewer today. Tiara Gardner is watching today, and Tiara and my wife worked together 21 years ago at the same elementary school, and Tiara, great friend of the family. So happy that you joined us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Okay, now we get to play this great game of where is Edgar Zazweta? Where in the world is he? We know he is currently wheels up in a Southwest Airlines plane, but we had a chance to connect with him earlier today.
Yeah, where was Edgar Zazweta? That was the question. We know that he's coming back from Sacramento. These graphics make me so happy. Really
It's the hats. That's what it is for me. It's the hat every time.
Yeah. So Edgar made the trip to Washington, D.C. for the 4th coast-to-coast federal advocacy trip, a joint effort from ACSA and CSBA. We did catch up with Edgar earlier this morning before he hopped on that flight about everything that's going on in DC and where we go from here.
It's been an eventful couple of days, to say the least. This is the fourth time we're doing this coast-to-coast federal advocacy trip. But this is, safe to say, a very different environment, right? And just case in point of how volatile this time is, as we've been talking about on lunch break here over the last number of months. We're sitting here lobbying on a set of issues, and lo and behold, we start getting emails and text messages from folks back in California, from some folks who were actually here on the trip with us, that the Trump administration had sent out letters that they were going to abruptly cancel school-based mental health grants that come directly from the Department of Education. It turns out that these are grants that are going to pay for school mental health counselors in diverse communities around the state. So it just took things that we've been saying here over the last couple of months. It just made it so real about this need to educate, this need to advocate. And I'd make a plea to all of our members, really, to not just those that are here in DC, but those back home, that we got to continue to educate folks. So it's been eventful, to say the least, but it goes without saying that the work will continue.
And Edgar, kind enough to join in on the chat, went on to say in our conversation, ACSA is working on alerting folks in DC about the impact of canceled federal grants. Please share the stories of impact with ACSA. Those with Republican representatives should be extra loud. We'll say it time and time again, Naj, this is about what's doing best for students, for the most vulnerable students in California public schools. Doesn't matter who's in office, got to fight for the kids who need it the most. Yeah,
absolutely. Supporting students isn't a political issue. It's something for all of us. So to keep that in mind, folks, if you like what you've seen here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we invite you to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and also now on LinkedIn, so you can watch us over there. When you subscribe or like, you will get instant alerts when Edgar and I, or in this case, Michael, are going to come on the air with breaking news, and then a reminder about our regularly scheduled Wednesday show. And if you have great stories happening in your school district, go ahead and send in your talking points, your news releases, your photos to our EdCal editor, Michelle Carl at mcarl@acsa.org. Programming note for you, Edgar and I, we don't expect to be on next Wednesday because he and I are going to be at our governance meetings in Burbank. Hi, Burbank. But we do expect the May revision to come out either at the tail end of next week or the week after. On the day it comes out, we'll be live on the air with a special edition of the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We'll bring in our governmental relations team. They will break down that May revision, give you the highlights, give you some in-depth look at how that May revision and the budget process may impact you. So that is coming up either at the tail end of next week or the week after, but we are not on the air next Wednesday. Folks, this has been a great opportunity to talk about the budget. We thank you so much for joining us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Remember, we are live and interactive Wednesdays here on ACSA Facebook, ACSA YouTube, and now ACSA LinkedIn as well. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.